The needle pierced skin, and Zara didn't flinch. Her hands moved with mechanical precision, threading surgical wire through torn flesh while blood pooled beneath her knees. The man on the motel floor was dying, his breathing shallow, his lips turning blue. She worked faster. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "You don't get to die on me." His eyes fluttered open, dark and unfocused. "Who?" he gasped. "Who are you?" "Nobody." She tied off the stitch, already moving to the second bullet wound. "I'm nobody." He tried to speak again, but unconsciousness claimed him. Zara sat back on her heels, her hands finally shaking now that the work was done. Blood covered her forearms, soaked into her waitress uniform, mapped across the dingy motel carpet like spilled wine. She looked at the man she'd just saved, a stranger with a face carved from stone and scars that told stories she didn't want to know. What had she done? 72 hours earlier, Seoul had been just another city where Zara Thompson could disappear. She'd been invisible for 2 years, and that was exactly how she wanted it. The Munhyang restaurant in Gangnam paid cash, asked no questions, and the customers never looked at her long enough to remember her face. She was a ghost in a country that wasn't hers, serving grilled meat to people who saw through her like glass. "Table 7 needs more soju," her manager barked in Korean, his eyes sliding over her body in a way that made her skin crawl. "And smile more. You always look so serious." Zara forced her lips into something resembling pleasantness and grabbed the bottle. 2 more years. That's all she needed. 2 more years of saving everyone, every tip, every scrap, and she'd have enough for her mother's surgery. $50,000. It might as well have been 50 million. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She checked it during her break, sitting in the alley behind the restaurant where the smell of garbage mixed with grilled meat. A video call from Atlanta. Her mother's face appeared on screen, thinner than last month, the hospital room stark white behind her. "Baby girl," her mother said, and even through the pixelated connection, Zara could hear the exhaustion. "You don't have to keep sending money. I can." "Mom, don't." Zara's throat tightened. "Just hang on. 6 more months, maybe less. I'm so close." Her mother's eyes filled with something that looked like guilt. "Zara, you shouldn't have to live like this. What happened with Marcus, that wasn't your fault. You could come home. We could figure something." "There's nothing to figure out." Zara's voice came out harder than she intended. "I'm dishonorably discharged, Mom. No job will hire me. No hospital will touch me. Marcus made sure of that." She took a breath, softened her tone. "This is the only way. I'm okay. I promise." She wasn't okay. She hadn't been okay since the court-martial, since watching the man she loved look a judge in the eye and say, "She stole the drugs, Your Honor." I tried to stop her. She hadn't been okay since the military police led her away in handcuffs while Marcus walked free, his career intact, his conscience apparently unburdened. But her mother didn't need to know that. "I love you, baby." "I love you too, Mom." The call ended. Zara stared at her reflection in the black screen, a 28-year-old woman who looked 40, wearing a stained uniform and a smile that never reached her eyes. She went back inside. That night, the restaurant was busy. Section 7 had been reserved for VIP customers, the kind who paid for privacy and expected discretion. Zara was assigned to their service. She balanced a tray of soju bottles and side dishes, knocked on the private room door and waited. Silence. She knocked again. "Hello?" She called in Korean. "I have your order." Still nothing. She checked her watch. They were 15 minutes past their scheduled time. Maybe they'd left? She turned the handle, pushing the door open. The smell hit her first. Copper and gunpowder, sharp and wrong. Then her brain registered what her eyes were seeing. Bodies. 5 of them, sprawled across the floor in positions that only death could arrange. Blood everywhere. On the walls, the table, pooling beneath overturned chairs. And in the center of it all, a man clutching his side, his white shirt soaked crimson. He looked up at her, and Zara saw something flicker in his eyes. Not fear. Something colder. Resignation. Behind him, another man stood with a gun. He was younger, with a face that might have been handsome if not twisted with rage. He turned toward Zara, and she watched his expression shift from surprise to calculation. "Wrong place, wrong time," he said in Korean, raising the weapon. The man on the floor moved. Despite his wounds, despite the blood loss that should have made him weak, he moved with viper speed. A knife appeared in his hand. Where had it been hidden? and flew through the air. It buried itself in the younger man's throat. He dropped, gurgling, clutching at the blade. "Run," the wounded man gasped, his eyes finding Zara's. "Run now." She should have listened. Every instinct screamed at her to turn and flee, to pretend she'd never seen this room, these bodies, this carnage. But something in his face stopped her. She'd seen that look before, in field hospitals in Afghanistan when soldiers knew they were dying. It was the look of someone saying goodbye to a world that had never been kind. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. Men shouting in Korean. "Find him. Check every room." Zara made a choice she didn't understand. She dropped the tray, grabbed the wounded man's arm, and hauled him to his feet. He was heavy, easily 6'2" and solid muscle, but her military training kicked in. She'd carried wounded soldiers twice her size through combat zones. She could do this. "Back exit," she hissed. "Can you walk?" He nodded, leaning his weight on her. They staggered through the kitchen, past shocked line cooks who wisely looked away. Zara knew this restaurant's layout better than her own apartment. She knew about the delivery entrance, the blind spot in the security cameras, the gap in the fence where smokers slipped through. They made it to the alley. A car was parked there, some delivery driver's vehicle with keys still in the ignition. Zara didn't hesitate. She shoved the man into the passenger seat, climbed behind the wheel, and drove. "Where am I going?" she asked, merging into Seoul traffic with her heart hammering against her ribs. The man pressed his hand against his wounds, blood seeping between his fingers. Anywhere he managed. Just away. Zara drove north, toward the outskirts of the city where she'd spent her first desperate weeks in Korea. There was a motel there, the kind that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask for identification. She pulled into the parking lot, killed the engine, and assessed her passenger. He was unconscious, his breathing shallow. She needed supplies. The motel's vending area had a first aid kit. She'd noticed it during her own stay there 2 years ago. She grabbed it, along with bottles of soju from a nearby convenience store, and dragged the man into a ground floor room. The next hour was a blur of medical training she'd hoped never to use again. She cut away his shirt, revealing 2 bullet wounds, one in his side, one in his shoulder. The shoulder wound was clean, through and through. The side was worse. She poured soju over her hands, over the wounds, ignoring his groans of pain. "This is going to hurt," she said, even though he probably couldn't hear her. She dug the tweezers into his flesh, searching for the bullet. Her hands remembered what her mind had tried to forget, the feel of working inside a human body, the resistance of muscle, the slick heat of blood. She found the bullet, extracted it, dropped it into an ashtray with a metallic clink. The stitching took longer. She'd done this in field hospitals with proper equipment, proper lighting, proper backup. Here, she had a motel lamp and a first aid kit meant for scraped knees. But her hands didn't shake. They never shook when it mattered. When his breathing stopped, when his lips turned blue and his chest went still, she didn't panic. She started compressions, counting in her head, breathing for him, refusing to let death take him after everything she'd just done. "Come on," she growled. "Come on, you don't get to quit now." He gasped, his eyes flying open. They stared at each other, her hands still pressed against his chest, his blood on her face. "Who are you?" he asked again, his voice barely a whisper. Zara sat back, suddenly exhausted. "I told you. Nobody." He studied her face, and she had the uncomfortable feeling he could see straight through her lies. Nobody doesn't have hands this steady. Nobody doesn't know field surgery. His eyes closed again. "Thank you. Nobody." Then he was out, truly unconscious this time but breathing steady. Zara stood on shaking legs and looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Her reflection stared back, a stranger wearing a mask of blood. She washed her hands, watching red swirl down the drain, and wondered if she'd just saved a man's life or signed her own death warrant. Through the thin bathroom door, she could hear his breathing, steady now, alive. She'd kept him alive. The thought should have brought relief, but instead, it brought questions she wasn't ready to answer. Why had she done it? Why had she risked everything? Her invisibility, her safety, her mother's future, for a man who was clearly dangerous. She'd seen the bodies in that room. She'd seen how efficiently he'd killed his would-be murderer. This wasn't some innocent victim. This was someone who lived in a world where death came with dinner. Zara dried her hands and returned to the main room. She sat in a chair by the window, watching him sleep, watching for any sign that his condition was deteriorating. The night stretched long. She didn't sleep. She couldn't. Every car that passed outside made her jump. Every sound in the hallway sent her hand reaching for the knife she'd taken from the restaurant kitchen. Dawn broke over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that seemed obscene given the night she'd had. The man stirred, his eyes opening slowly. He assessed his surroundings with the careful precision of someone trained to expect danger, then his gaze landed on her. "You're still here," he said, his voice stronger now. "Where else would I go?" Zara replied. "You were in no condition to be left alone." He pushed himself up to sitting, wincing but managing it. His bare chest was wrapped in makeshift bandages, already spotted with blood. He needed proper medical care, but they both knew a hospital wasn't an option. "You should have let me die. People keep telling me what I should have done." Zara stood, crossing her arms. "Maybe I'm tired of doing what I should do." Something that might have been respect flickered in his eyes. He extended his hand, formal despite the circumstances. "Kang Min-jun." She hesitated, then shook it. "Zara Thompson." "Zara." He tested her name, his accent making it sound different, softer. "You're American." "Military?" "Was." The word came out clipped. "Not anymore." Min-jun didn't press, which she appreciated. Instead, he said, "The men who tried to kill me last night, they're called the Crimson Dragons. They'll be looking for me. And if they find out you helped me, they'll be looking for you too." "Great." Zara laughed, a sound without humor. "Just what my life was missing. A crime syndicate hunting me. I can protect you. Can you?" She gestured at his bandaged torso. "Because from where I'm sitting, you couldn't even protect yourself." His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. "My second-in-command betrayed me. Seo Taeyong. He was like a brother." The last word came out bitter. "I didn't see it coming. I should have, but I didn't." Zara understood betrayal. She understood it in her bones, in the scar tissue of her heart where Marcus's lies had carved their home. "People surprise you," she said quietly. "Usually not in good ways." Min-jun studied her, and she felt exposed under that gaze. "You know something about betrayal. Doesn't everyone?" Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. "I need to make a call. My people will be looking for me." "Your people?" Zara asked. "You mean your crime organization?" "I mean my family." He dialed a number, spoke rapid Korean. Zara caught enough to understand he was arranging a pickup, giving coordinates. When he hung up, he turned to her. "They'll be here in 20 minutes. You should go before they arrive." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He pulled a wallet from his ruined pants, extracted a stack of bills. "This is $50,000 in one. For saving my life. For your silence." Zara stared at the money. $50,000. Exactly what her mother needed. It was perfect. Too perfect. Nothing in her life had ever been this easy. "What's the catch?" "No catch. You saved my life. This is payment. Take it and disappear. Forget you ever saw me." She should have taken it. She should have grabbed that money and run straight to the bank, wired it to her mother's hospital, and bought a plane ticket back to Atlanta. But something made her hesitate. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, like she was a person instead of a ghost. Maybe it was the exhaustion making her stupid. Or maybe it was that for the first time in 2 years, she'd felt useful, competent, like the woman she used to be before Marcus destroyed her. "I can't take this," she heard herself say. Min-jun's eyebrows rose. "Why not?" "Because I don't know what it means." "In your world, does money like this come with strings? Obligations? Am I selling myself into something I don't understand?" He smiled, a real smile that transformed his face from intimidating to almost handsome. "You're smart. Smarter than most people I meet." He tucked the money back into his wallet. "Then what do you want?" What did she want? Safety. Her mother healthy. A life where she wasn't always looking over her shoulder. A world where men like Marcus didn't win and women like her didn't have to run. She wanted impossible things. "I don't know," she admitted. "When you figure it out, let me know." He wrote something on a piece of motel stationery, handed it to her. "A phone number. Call this if you need anything. Or if the Crimson Dragons find you." "Will they?" "Probably not. They don't know who you are. As long as you stay invisible, you'll be fine." Invisible. The word she'd been clinging to for 2 years suddenly felt like a prison sentence. She took the paper, folded it carefully, and slipped it into her pocket. "Good luck, Kang Min-jun." Luck has nothing to do with survival, Zara Thompson. He stood, steadier now, and extended his hand again. But thank you anyway. She shook it, felt the calluses on his palm, the strength in his grip. Then she left, walking out into the Seoul morning like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just spent the night saving a crime boss's life. Like her carefully constructed invisibility wasn't already crumbling around her. 3 days passed. Zara went back to work, back to her routine, back to being nobody. The restaurant had been closed for 2 days after the incident, but the owners were eager to reopen. The police had investigated, found nothing useful, and moved on. The bodies were identified as members of various crime syndicates. The news called it gang violence. Case closed. Zara served customers, smiled on command, and pretended she couldn't still feel Min-jun's blood drying under her fingernails no matter how many times she scrubbed. At night, she dreamed of the man with the gun, the one Min-jun had killed. In her dreams, the knife missed, and the bullet hit her instead. On the 4th day, her manager called her into his office. "You're being transferred," he said without preamble. "Transferred? Where?" "Private service. Very exclusive client. The pay is triple what you make now." Zara's instincts screamed warning. "I didn't apply for any transfer. The client requested you specifically." He slid a paper across the desk. A contract, written in Korean with English translation attached. The pay was indeed triple her current salary. The location was listed as various. The client name was redacted. "I don't understand." Her manager's expression suggested he didn't care whether she understood or not. "You start tomorrow. Be at this address at 9 a.m. He handed her a card with an address in Gangnam, one of Seoul's wealthiest districts. "Don't be late." That night, Zara called the number Min-jun had given her. It rang twice before a woman answered, speaking crisp Korean. "Identify yourself." "I'm looking for Kang Min-jun." "My name is Zara Thompson." A pause. Then what? The hold music was traditional Korean instrumental, oddly soothing. After a minute, a different voice came on the line. Male familiar. "Zara, did you do this?" She demanded. "Did you arrange some transfer at my work? You said you didn't know what you wanted. I'm giving you time to figure it out. By forcing me into some job I didn't ask for? By offering you protection." His voice was patient. "The dragons are asking questions about the restaurant. They're looking for witnesses. It's only a matter of time before they find the security footage from the kitchen, before they identify you. Working for me keeps you safe. Working for you makes me a target. You're already a target. You just don't know it yet." He sighed. "Come to the address tomorrow. Meet my people. If you still want to walk away after that, I'll pay you the 50,000 and make sure you disappear properly. Somewhere the dragons will never find you." Zara wanted to argue, but she couldn't deny the logic. If they were really looking for witnesses, her face would eventually surface. The kitchen cameras had probably caught everything. This isn't a choice, is it? There's always a choice. But some choices are smarter than others. She hung up without saying goodbye, stared at the contract on her table, and made the smart choice. The next morning, she took the subway to Gangnam, found the address, and stood outside a building that looked like it belonged in a luxury magazine. The lobby was all marble and gold, the kind of place where people like her usually came in through the service entrance. A woman waited by the elevator. She was stunning in that effortless way that spoke of money and breeding. Perfectly styled hair, designer clothes, an expression that suggested she'd never been impressed by anything in her life. "Zara Thompson? That's me. I'm Yuna. I work with Min-jun." She looked Zara up and down, her assessment clearly finding her lacking. "Follow me." They rode the elevator to the top floor in silence. The penthouse was breathtaking, floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of the entire city. Min-jun stood by those windows, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Zara made in 6 months. His wounds were hidden beneath expensive fabric, but she could see the slight stiffness in his movements. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Like I had a choice." Yuna snorted. "She's rude. She's honest." Min-jun gestured to a seating area. "Please sit. Let me explain what's happening." Zara sat, but she didn't relax. Min-jun settled across from her while Yuna remained standing, a silent guard dog radiating disapproval. Another man entered the room, younger than Min-jun, with glasses and the nervous energy of someone who lived behind computer screens. "This is Ji-hoon," Min-jun said. "My tech analyst." "Ji-hoon, show her." Ji-hoon opened a laptop, turning the screen toward Zara. Security footage played, grainy but clear enough. There she was, dragging Min-jun through the restaurant kitchen. The timestamp read 4 nights ago. The Crimson Dragons obtained this footage 2 days ago. They've been running facial recognition software, checking immigration records, employment databases. Zara's stomach dropped. Have they identified me? Not yet. I scrubbed most of your digital footprint as soon as Min-jun told me about you. Ji-hoon had just his glasses. But they're persistent. And they have resources. It's only a matter of time. So what am I supposed to do? Hide forever? No, Min-jun said. You come under my protection. Publicly. Officially. He leaned forward, his expression serious. In my world, there are rules. One of them is this. If someone is marked as protected by a clan leader, touching them means war. The dragons won't risk that. Not now, when they're already weakened from internal conflicts. Marked? Zara didn't like the sound of that word. Yuna spoke up, her voice cold. He wants to give you the Biko mark. The black tiger. It's a tattoo that identifies you as under his personal protection. A tattoo. Zara looked at Min-jun. You want to brand me like cattle? I want to keep you alive. His voice was sharp. The mark isn't about ownership. It's about making a statement so clear that no one dares to challenge it. You saved my life. In return, I'm offering you mine as shield. And what do I have to do in return? What does this protection cost? Min-jun met her eyes. Your trust. That's all. Trust that I won't let anyone harm you. Zara laughed, bitter and tired. Trust. That's a big ask from a man I've known for 4 days. Then don't trust me. Trust the system. The rules have kept this city's underworld balanced for decades. Break them, and everyone suffers. He stood, walked to a cabinet, and pulled out a bottle of expensive-looking whiskey. I'm not asking you to like me, Zara. I'm asking you to let me fix the problem I created by surviving. She watched him pour 2 glasses, offer her one. She took it, drank, felt the burn slide down her throat. If I say no, then Ji-hoon will give you new identification, new papers, and enough money to start over somewhere far from here. Mongolia, maybe. Or Vietnam. Somewhere the dragons don't have reach. And my mother? Your mother's medical bills will be paid in full, regardless of your choice. Zara's hand tightened around the glass. Why? Because you saved my life when you had every reason to run. Because in a world of betrayal and self-interest, you chose differently. Min-jun sat back down. And because I know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer while you're powerless to help. Yuna made a disgusted sound. This is ridiculous. She's a liability. Give her the money and send her away. Yuna, Min-jun said, his voice carrying warning. No, she's right to be suspicious. Zara set down her glass. I would be too, if some random American woman suddenly became my boss's problem. She looked at Yuna. But I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to walk into that room. I didn't ask to be kind. And I sure as hell didn't ask to become a target for a crime syndicate. So excuse me if I'm not thrilled about being tattooed and claimed like some kind of prize. Yuna's expression shifted slightly, something that might have been respect flickering in her eyes. At least she has a spine. More than a spine, Ji-hoon muttered, typing on his laptop. According to her military record, which I definitely did not hack into, she has 3 commendations for valor, 2 for medical excellence, and a dishonorable discharge that makes no sense given her exemplary record. Zara's blood went cold. You looked into my past? I look into everyone's past. Ji-hoon didn't look up from his screen. It's my job. And your past is interesting. Decorated army medic, engaged to a Captain Marcus Whitfield, then suddenly court-martialed for stealing opioids from a field hospital. But here's the thing. The evidence was circumstantial at best, and Captain Whitfield's testimony was the deciding factor. Then, 6 months after your discharge, he received a promotion and a cushy assignment stateside. Stop. Zara's voice shook. Stop talking. But Ji-hoon continued, reading from his screen. Looks like someone took the fall for someone else. And that someone else benefited greatly from throwing you under the bus. Min-jun's expression had gone dark. He framed you. It doesn't matter. Zara stood, needing to move, needing to breathe. What's done is done. I can't change it. I can't fix it. I can only survive it. Actually, Ji-hoon said, you could expose him. I have access to military databases that could. No. Zara spun around. No revenge. No justice. I tried fighting back. I tried telling the truth. No one believed me. Marcus was an officer, a man, someone with connections and credibility. I was just an enlisted medic who'd gotten too close to someone above her station. The system protected him. It always protects men like him. The room fell silent. Zara realized she was breathing hard, her hands clenched into fists. She forced herself to relax, to rebuild the walls she'd spent 2 years constructing. "I'm sorry. That was unprofessional." "No," Min-jun said quietly. "That was honest." He stood, moved closer but kept respectful distance. "I understand why you don't trust easily. I understand why the idea of being claimed makes you angry. But I'm not Marcus. I'm not asking you to take the fall for me. I'm asking to stand beside you while we both survive." Zara looked at him, really looked. She saw the scars on his knuckles, the faint line along his jaw where something sharp had once cut deep. She saw someone who knew violence intimately but wasn't consumed by it. Someone who'd been betrayed but hadn't let it turn him bitter. Or maybe she was projecting. Maybe she was seeing what she wanted to see because the alternative, being alone, being hunted, being invisible forever, was too exhausting to bear. "If I agree to this, Mark," she said slowly, "can I still leave? If I decide I don't want this life, this protection, can I walk away?" Min-jun nodded. "The mark can be removed. It's painful, but possible. You're not a prisoner, Zara. You're a guest. An honored one." "Some guest," Yuna muttered. "Most guests don't require a security detail and a complete digital identity reconstruction." "Most guests don't save my life," Min-jun shot back. He returned his attention to Zara. "I need an answer. The dragons are getting closer. Every hour you're unmarked is another hour you're vulnerable." Zara thought of her mother, dying in an Atlanta hospital. She thought of Marcus, probably sleeping soundly in his officer's quarters, his conscience unburdened. She thought of the last 2 years, invisible and alone, serving people who looked through her like she was made of glass. And she thought of Min-jun, bleeding on a motel floor, looking at her like she mattered. "Okay," she said. "Do it." The tattoo process took 3 hours. A traditional artist was brought to the penthouse, an elderly man who spoke no English, but whose hands were steady as mountains. He prepared his tools with ritual precision: bamboo needles, ink mixed from ancient recipes, prayers whispered under his breath. Min-jun explained as the artist worked. "The Biko mark is given to family, to blood members of the clan. Non-family members can receive it, but it's rare. It means you're under the protection of not just me, but every person who carries this symbol." Zara sat still as the needle pierced her inner wrist, as black ink spread beneath her skin in the shape of a tiger's face. The pain was sharp but manageable. She'd endured worse. The artist worked in silence, occasionally pausing to wipe away blood and excess ink. Yuna watched from across the room, her expression unreadable. Ji-hoon had returned to his computers, fingers flying across keyboards as he built Zara's new digital identity. Min-jun sat beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat of his body. "Does it hurt?" he asked. "I've had worse." "In Afghanistan?" She glanced at him, surprised. "You know about that?" Ji-hoon is thorough. "You served 2 tours. Saw combat. Saved a lot of lives." He paused. "You're good at saving people. Not good enough. I lost patience too. More than I saved some days. But you tried. That's what matters." The artist finished, wrapped her wrist in clean bandages, and bowed to both of them before leaving. Zara stared at the white gauze, knowing beneath it was a mark that would change everything. She was no longer invisible. She was claimed, protected, bound to a world she barely understood. "What happens now?" she asked. Min-jun stood, offered his hand to help her up. "Now we make it official. There's a gathering tomorrow night. Clan leaders from across Seoul. I'll introduce you, make the announcement. After that, you'll be untouchable. And until then you stay here. This building is secure. Yuna and Ji-hoon will be with you at all times." Yuna's head snapped up. "I'm babysitting? You're protecting." Min-jun's tone left no room for argument. "Zara is now Biko. Treat her as such." That night, Zara couldn't sleep. The penthouse had guest rooms that were larger than her entire apartment, with beds softer than clouds and views that made Seoul look like a jewel box. But comfort didn't bring rest. She stood by the windows, watching the city lights, wondering what her mother would think of all this. A knock on the door. "It's me," Yuna's voice called. "Can I come in?" "It's your building." Yuna entered, carrying 2 bottles of beer. She offered one to Zara, who took it gratefully. They stood side by side, drinking in silence, Two women who had nothing in common except the man who'd brought them together. I don't like you, Yuna said finally. I figured. But Min-jun trusts you. And I trust him. So I'm going to keep you alive, even if I don't understand why you matter so much. Zara took a long drink. I don't understand it either. He sees something in you. Something he saw in his mother, maybe. Yuna's voice softened. She was American too. Black. Beautiful. She died when Min-jun was 7. His father never spoke of her again. Erased her from clan history like she never existed. That's horrible. That's tradition. The clan is old, powerful, and very traditional. They don't accept outsiders easily. Especially not, she stopped. Especially not black women, Zara finished. You can say it. I know what I am. I know what I look like. I've spent 2 years in this country being stared at, whispered about, treated like an exotic curiosity. Yuna looked at her with something approaching sympathy. It won't get easier. Once you're marked, once you're public, the whispers will become shouts. The clan elders will challenge this. They'll say Min-jun is dishonoring his father, dishonoring tradition. They'll call you things I won't repeat. And Min-jun knows this? He knows. He doesn't care. Or maybe he cares too much. Yuna finished her beer. His mother's death broke something in him. His father never recovered either, but he dealt with it by pretending she never existed. Min-jun dealt with it by remembering everything. Every story. Every photograph. Every moment. He keeps them locked away, but they're there. Zara thought about the photograph she'd glimpsed in the motel, the young boy with a beautiful woman. He must have loved her very much. He did. We all did. She was kind. That's rare in our world. Yuna turned to leave, then paused at the door. Don't break his heart, American. He's had enough things broken. The next evening, Zara stood in front of a mirror while a team of stylists transformed her. They dressed her in a hanbok, traditional Korean formal wear, but the fabric was crimson silk that shimmered like blood in water. Her hair was styled in an elaborate updo, her makeup subtle but flawless. She barely recognized herself. You look beautiful, Ji-hoon said from the doorway. Terrified, but beautiful. I am terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He handed her a small earpiece. Keep this in. I'll be monitoring everything. If anything goes wrong, I'll let you know. What could go wrong at a formal dinner? Ji-hoon's expression answered that question without words. Everything. Everything could go wrong. The gathering was held at a traditional estate outside Seoul, the kind of place that had been standing for centuries and would stand for centuries more. Lanterns lit the pathways, and guests arrived in expensive cars, their clothing a mix of traditional and modern formal wear. Zara walked beside Min-jun, acutely aware of every eye turning toward them. Breathe, Min-jun murmured. You're doing fine. I feel like I'm walking to my execution. If this were an execution, the food would be better. He offered his arm. Trust me. I won't let anything happen to you. The main hall was breathtaking, with wooden beams overhead and silk panels depicting tigers and mountains. Tables were arranged in a horseshoe pattern, with the head table elevated on a platform. Min-jun led her there, settling her beside him in a position of honor that made her skin crawl with discomfort. The other clan leaders arrived, each announced with formal titles that Ji-hoon whispered translations for through her earpiece. They were mostly older men, their faces carved by years of violence and power. A few women, all Korean, all watching Zara with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. And then, as the dinner was about to begin, a commotion at the entrance. Kang Jae-sung has arrived, someone announced. Min-jun's entire body tensed. Zara felt it through their proximity, the way his breathing changed, the way his hand curled into a fist on the table. Your father? She whispered. My father. The man who entered was tall, broad-shouldered, with silver hair and a face that might have been handsome if not frozen in permanent disapproval. He wore traditional hanbok in black and gold, and every person in the room stood when he entered. Except Min-jun. He remained seated, a deliberate insult that sent whispers rippling through the crowd. Jae-sung's eyes found his son, then traveled to Zara. His expression didn't change, but something cold passed through his gaze. He took his seat at the opposite end of the horseshoe, and the dinner began. The food was exquisite, course after course of dishes Zara couldn't name. She barely tasted any of it. The tension in the room was suffocating, conversations happening in Korean too rapid for her to follow. Ji-hoon provided running commentary in her ear, translating the important parts. The dragons are demanding retribution for Taeyong's death, one clan leader was saying. They claim Min-jun murdered him in cold blood. Taeyong was a traitor, Min-jun replied, his voice carrying across the hall. He betrayed his clan. He violated every oath. His death was justice. Justice or convenience? Another leader challenged. Some say you killed him because he discovered your weakness. I have no weakness. Then what do you call her? The speaker gestured toward Zara. An American. A woman with no family, no connections, no value to the clan. Yet you mark her? You claim her as Biko? This is not tradition. This is insanity. Min-jun stood slowly, his presence commanding immediate silence. Zara Thompson saved my life when she had every reason to let me die. She asked nothing in return. Expected nothing. She acted with honor when honor is becoming rare in our world. That is tradition. That is what the Biko has always represented. Not blood, not heritage, but honor. Honor? Jae-sung's voice cut through the hall like a blade. You speak of honor while spitting on your ancestors. You mark a foreigner with our sacred symbol. You parade her before us like a prize. You dishonor your mother's memory with this display. The room went deadly quiet. Min-jun's face could have been carved from stone. Don't speak of my mother. I'll speak of whatever I wish. I am head of this clan, not you. And I say this woman is not welcome. Remove the mark. Send her away. Or face the consequences. Min-jun moved with terrifying speed, vaulting over the table to stand before his father. They faced each other, two tigers ready to tear each other apart. You want to talk about my mother? Let's talk about how you erased her. How you pretended she never existed. How you beat me when I spoke her name. How you burned every photograph, destroyed every memory, turned her into a ghost. I protected you, Jae-sung hissed. I protected this clan from the shame of your mixed blood. Shame? Min-jun's voice shook with rage. My mother was the best thing that ever happened to this family. She brought kindness to a world of cruelty. And you killed her for it. Zara's blood went cold. Min-jun, she whispered, but he couldn't hear her. Jae-sung's face contorted with fury. I did what was necessary. She was making you weak. Making you soft. A leader cannot be soft. You murdered her. Min-jun's words fell like stones. I was 7 years old, and I watched you poison her tea. I watched her die, and I couldn't do anything because I was a child. But I'm not a child anymore. The hall erupted in chaos. Clan leaders shouting, guards moving forward, Yuna appearing at Zara's side with a gun drawn. Through it all, father and son stood locked in their hatred, years of poison finally spilling free. Then the windows exploded. Glass rained down as men in red masks swung through on ropes, gunfire erupting from every direction. The Crimson Dragons had come, and they'd come for blood. Zara hit the ground as bullets tore through the silk panels. She saw Min-jun fighting, saw Yuna firing with precision, saw Ji-hoon dragging her toward a side exit. Go! Ji-hoon screamed. Get her out. But before Zara could move, a hand grabbed her hair, yanked her back. She spun, her military training kicking in, and found herself face to face with a ghost. Marcus Whitfield. Older, harder, scarred, but unmistakably him. The man who destroyed her life. Hello, Zara, he said, his voice exactly as she remembered. Miss me? She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. 2 years of running, of hiding, of rebuilding herself, and here he was. Her nightmare made flesh. Surprised? Marcus smiled. That same charming smile he'd used when they were engaged. The Crimson Dragons pay well for American military consultants. When they showed me footage of their mystery woman, I couldn't believe my luck. My lying ex-fiancé, playing nurse to a Korean crime boss. This is too perfect. Zara found her voice. You framed me. You destroyed my career. You sent me running across the world. I saved my career. You were collateral damage. He pulled a gun, pressed it against her ribs. Now you're going to come with me quietly, or everyone in this room dies. Starting with your new boyfriend. Across the hall, Min-jun saw them. Their eyes met, and Zara saw something in his face she'd never seen before. Fear. Not for himself. For her. Don't, she called to him. I'll go. Just stop shooting. Please. Zara, no. But she was already moving, letting Marcus drag her toward the exit. If she fought, more people would die. If she ran, Marcus would make good on his threat. So she did what she'd always done. She sacrificed herself to save others. They made it to the courtyard. Marcus's extraction team waited with vehicles, engines running. He shoved her toward one when a gunshot rang out. Marcus stumbled, blood blooming on his shoulder. Behind him, Jae-sung stood with a smoking gun. "No one touches what belongs to my son," the old man said, his voice cold as winter. Chaos erupted again. The extraction team returned fire. Jae-sung's guards engaged. In the confusion, Zara saw her chance. She grabbed a knife from a fallen guard and drove it into Marcus's leg. He screamed, releasing her. She ran. She didn't know where she was going. Just away. Away from Marcus. Away from the gunfire. Away from a life that had just exploded around her again. She crashed through gardens, stumbled down stone steps, until hands caught her. Min-jun's hands. "I've got you," he said, pulling her close. "I've got you." Behind them, the estate burned. Sirens wailed in the distance. They needed to run, to hide, to survive. But for one moment, Zara let herself collapse into his arms, let herself be held by someone who'd fought for her instead of betraying her. "Your father," she gasped. "He saved me. He saved his son's honor." Min-jun pulled back to look at her face. "Are you hurt?" "No. But Marcus is gone. The extraction team got him out." His jaw clenched. "But we know who he is now. We know who hired him. And we're going to end this." Yuna appeared, blood on her face but alive. "We need to move. Now. The police are coming, and we can't be here when they arrive." They ran to waiting cars, speeding into the Seoul night. Zara sat in the back seat, trembling with adrenaline and shock. Everything had changed. Again. Her past and present had collided in the worst possible way, and now she was trapped in a war she barely understood. Min-jun took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. "I'm sorry. I brought you into this world, and now you're paying the price." "I walked into that room on my own," Zara replied. "I saved you on my own. I made my choices." She looked at their joined hands, at the black tiger mark on her wrist. "I'm done running. Marcus wants a war? Let's give him one." Min-jun smiled, fierce and proud. "That's my girl." 1 week later, they stood on a beach in Busan, watching the sun rise over the ocean. They'd gone underground, hidden while Yuna and Ji-hoon dismantled the Crimson Dragon's operations piece by piece. Jae-sung had disappeared, his actions at the estate forcing him into exile. The clan was fracturing, choosing sides, preparing for a war that felt inevitable. But in this moment, watching the waves crash against the shore, Zara felt something like peace. Min-jun stood beside her, his hand still holding hers like he had for the past 7 days. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we fight. We rebuild. We survive. Together?" He turned to her, his expression soft in the dawn light. "I told you that mark means your life is bound to mine. I meant it. Not as a claim. As a promise. I will stand beside you against anything. Anyone. Including ghosts from your past." Zara looked at the black tiger on her wrist, then at the man who'd given it to her. A man who'd seen her at her lowest and called it strength. A man who'd offered protection without demanding submission. A man who'd fought his own father to defend her honor. "This was supposed to be temporary," she said. "Just until the danger passed. And nothing about this feels temporary." She stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "Nothing about you feels temporary." He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "Good. Because I don't do temporary, Zara Thompson. I do forever." Their kiss tasted like salt air and new beginnings. Like survival and defiance and something neither of them had expected to find. Love. Real. Complicated. Dangerous. But theirs. When they pulled apart, Min-jun's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. Ji-hoon sent a message. "The dragons know where we are. Marcus is coming." Zara felt the familiar spike of fear, but this time it didn't paralyze her. This time she had something to fight for. Someone to fight beside. She looked at Min-jun and saw her future reflected in his eyes. Messy. Violent. Uncertain. But no longer invisible. "Then let him come," she said, her voice steady and sure. "I'm done hiding. I'm done running. If Marcus wants me, he'll have to go through both of us." Min-jun smiled, pulling her close one more time. "That's my queen." The phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "The dragons don't forgive. The Bakos don't forget. This isn't over. See you soon." Zara deleted the message and pocketed the phone. The sun had fully risen now, painting the sky in brilliant golds and pinks. A new day. A new war. A new life. She'd been invisible for so long. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen, to matter, to fight back. She wasn't a waitress anymore. She wasn't a disgraced soldier. She wasn't nobody. She was Pico. She was protected. She was loved. And she was ready. If you've been captivated by Zara and Min-jun's story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for part 2, because this war is just beginning. Drop a comment below telling me what you think happens next. Will Marcus succeed, or will our couple finally find peace? Your support keeps these stories coming, so let's build this community together. Part 2 drops soon, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when the Crimson Dragons come for blood. Until then, stay fierce, stay curious, and remember that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to stay invisible. See you in the next one.